Thomas Hobbes was a 17th century English philosopher who, much like John Locke, is today mostly remembered for his political theories. But there is a reason why so many compare Locke and Hobbes. Locke was much more optimistic of man being self-governing and advocated for limited government. However, Hobbes was much more pessimistic and advocated for a singular powerful king to rule over all. I could go into the early life of Hobbes, but that's boring, and not like many things of note actually happened other than his father leaving him at the age of 4 after he got in a fight with a fellow clergyman and had to leave in disgrace. Just keep in mind that just about everything Hobbes is known for today he wrote down after the age of 60. But I digress. Something that I believe I failed to mention in my John Locke video was at the time people were questioning why and to what extent should subjects obey the wishes of their rulers. There was an answer for this for the past several centuries, and the answer was found in the theory known as the divine right to rule. The theory stated that kings have the right to rule because God said they could. And if you don't like that, well, there's the door. You don't want to go in there, do you? Yeah, I didn't think so. The point is, many people at this time were no longer finding this to be a satisfactory answer, and the new thoughts making the rounds was that the right to rule does not come from God, but rather the people who give the power to those who they deem worthy. Of course, that was just a quick and dirty definition for what is the social contract theory. Okay, so now you have some basic understanding of what the people were at the time thinking. So we can now go back to Hobbes and see what he thinks. Well, he agreed that the divine right to rule no longer held any water, but he was also scared of the social contract theory because he believed man to be untrustworthy. And it's not like he just believed this just because, but he had a first-hand account of the beheading of King Charles I during the English Civil War, where over 200,000 people met their end. His writings were made in the hope that nothing so barbaric would ever happen again. Now, what are these writings? A book known as Leviathan. A leviathan being a massive sea monster described in the book of Job and Psalms. As said before, Hobbes believed that man was unable to do good when left to their own devices, so he tried to use the state of nature argument. It was made to make the reader think about how governments came into being. The meat of the argument is that the state of nature is a place you would not want to be. Hobbes described this as a war of all against all. He said that life would be nasty, brutish, and short. With all the death and destruction going around, people would form together and willingly forge governments to try to avoid such things. Hobbes argued that people would willingly throw themselves into the arms of greater authority, and in so doing they have the duty to obey that greater authority. Now, what would you do if this authority, whether it be a king, a dictator, or otherwise, does evil? Hobbes argued that the only reason you should complain is if the Leviathan tried to directly kill you. If he would only say, I don't know, drop-kick the economy, demand unreasonable taxes, or lock away political dissidents. Well, that's no reason at all to try to overthrow the Leviathan, because if you do, society will crumble away, and life would revert back to a war of all against all. Now, when laid out on a flat surface with no knowledge of who Thomas Hobbes was, you, as well as I, can point and laugh about how this guy just wants to be put under the boot of an authoritarian, but things are normally more nuanced than that. Hobbes was, by his very nature, a very peaceful man, and very much disliked violence of all kinds. Now, something that I myself believe is that finding out why someone believes something can lead to greater understanding, and thus find the true root of one's belief structure. Now, I can't just ask Hobbes why he thinks what he thinks, because, you know, he's been dead since 1679, but I can find it possible that the actions of the Civil War left such a bad taste in his mouth that he was willing to take the risk of an all-powerful ruler doing evil rather than falling into the state of chaos. Admittedly, I don't fully trust my fellow man either. I have a lock on my door, and I'm pretty sure you have one as well. Nevertheless, I very much do disagree with Hobbes, and will throw my own hat into the ring and give my own opinion on government. A utopian one, and one that is perhaps slightly more realistic. But until then, take care.